when Cody asked a question earlier about, what's holding you back, or a lot of people in the chat were saying things like, well, it's my fear of failure. It's my fear of success. I'm not consistent enough. I don't know enough. It's too much knowledge. I don't have enough knowledge. I don't know the products. People come up with all this different stuff. The reality is, I'm not consistent. That's my favorite one. There's no such thing as an inconsistent person. They don't exist. You ain't got no consistency problem. You're consistently watching Netflix and not talking to people about insurance. You're super freaking consistent. The only thing is you're not doing the things that are going to get you closer to where you want to go. And the number one reason why that's happening is because you aren't clear about where you want to go.
Okay, our next speaker has a massive heart, like crazy humble, also hilarious. We'll see if he proves me right or wrong when I throw him the mic in a few minutes. Man, I love getting a chance to be around him, hearing him speak. He's got such a message. He keeps things so simple. I love the way he trains, and he helps agents do something big. Type big if you're ready for our next speaker and you've loved 8% Virtual 2023 thus far, as we bring out our next speaker of the day. His agency produced over $36 million in 2022. His agency has also helped millions of families. Traveling from California, please welcome to 8% Virtual, our next speaker of the day, Trey Honeycutt.
Good to see y'all, 8% Virtual, all right? Hey, phenomenal event so far. I took a bunch of notes. I'm super excited about everything I get to go out and implement right away. If you guys have gotten a lot out of this in the chat, go ahead and put a 1. Drop a 1 in the chat. You got a lot out of it. So my goal here is to not disappoint. I got a few minutes to share with you some ideas on how to break free. In order to do that, I really have been thinking about in the past where I was and where I came from. And the last thing I want to give the impression of is I did it all by myself. I did not do it all by myself. And none of you will do it all by yourself either. I think a big mistake that people make is they think that things are happening to them. And the biggest breakthrough I ever had was the realization that things aren't happening to me, they're happening for me. I don't know how many of you have ever seen that movie Butterfly Effect, but it's this idea that if I could go back in time and I could pick one thing and change it, what would that do? And in that movie, Ashton Kutcher goes back and he picks one thing to change, and he comes back to the future and realizes that all these other things are broken. So everything that's happened to you has happened for a purpose, and you're right where you're supposed to be. If you want to break through or break free, the first thing you need to understand is you can't grow from where you think you should be. You can only grow from where you actually are. And where you actually are is exactly where you're supposed to be. A mistake that I made for a long time was the grass is greener mistake. If it wasn't working, it was because of someone else. It was because of my IMO. It was because of my leads. It was because I didn't have the right phone script. I didn't have the right mentorship. That's not the way it is at all. The grass is greener where somebody's watering it. So personal responsibility. Why do self-development? Why read books? So you can get in the habit of accepting personal responsibility for where you are. And the thing I like people to understand about this business specifically is this business is art. It's not science. It's not the how-tos. It's how you do the how-tos that matter. The reality is people look at the results. They look at somebody's lifestyle. They say, oh my goodness, look at this amazing lifestyle that Edward has. And then they look at his results. They say, if I could just get those results. A thing that I like to keep people in on is you don't have control over the results. Let me set you free. Want to break free? Understand this principle. You don't have control over the results. The results come last. The results is the outcome. All you have control over is the input. A couple years ago, my son, he's at a flag football, junior high flag football game. He goes to a Christian school, there's like 10 other kids. They coerced all 10 of those kids to be on the flag football team. I'm thinking this has to be the safest thing of all time. It's flag football. How can you get hurt doing this? So the other school they're playing, it was a prison school. At least I think it was. So the kid on the other side of my son on the line, because now he's a lineman, because he can't run fast and can't throw the ball. So he's blocking. And the kid on the other side of my son, who's the blocker, is like 6'3" and has like a goatee and like a mustache. Okay? My son's in 7th grade. So he goes to get the quarterback. He knocks everybody down, gets the quarterback's flag. Next play comes up. He knocks 2 of the guys down because the other 2 guys didn't want to play. Gets the quarterback's flag. The next play comes. He breaks through. The only kid trying to block was my son. Proud of him. But he hit him, flips him over backwards. He lands on his wrist, and I hear, ah! And I'm like, oh, Lord. So they pull him over to the side of the field. He's holding up his wrist. It's obviously broke. The adrenaline's going, so he hasn't really realized how bad it hurts yet. So I try to bring some humor to the situation. I go, son, how was your first day of flag football? The third play, he breaks his wrist. He goes, Dad, this is the worst day of my life. He goes, can I sell these football cleats and get an iPhone? That's how my son ended up getting an iPhone, by the way. But what happened was we took him to the ER. He goes in there. They set his wrist, and they put this cast on. They say for 6 weeks, if you don't do these things, and you rest it, and you don't try to take the cast off or get it wet, we have to do it over again, then your wrist will heal. And that's when, and the analogy I'm trying to draw there is, it's not up to the doctor to heal my son's wrist. All the doctor did was set the right conditions. The same thing's true in this with the results. You aren't in control of the results. The only thing you can do is set the right conditions. And take your personal responsibility. The question you ask yourself is, what can I do today to get closer to where I want to go? And then make a goal of hitting those things every single day. I call that developing a power mindset. If you can figure out a few things you can do every day to get you closer to where you want to go. And one of the things, when Cody asked a question earlier about, what's holding you back, or a lot of people in the chat were saying things like, well, it's my fear of failure. It's my fear of success. I'm not consistent enough. I don't know enough. It's too much knowledge. I don't have enough knowledge. I don't know the products. People come up with all this different stuff. The reality is, I'm not consistent. That's my favorite one. There's no such thing as an inconsistent person. They don't exist. You ain't got no consistency problem. You're consistently watching Netflix and not talking to people about insurance. You're super freaking consistent. The only thing is you're not doing the things that are going to get you closer to where you want to go. And the number one reason why that's happening is because you aren't clear about where you want to go. So if you want to get consistent, get clear about where you want to go. So results come last. You don't have control over that. People say, all right, well, if I want to get the results, then I got to focus on the activity. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? How many appointments? How many leads? How many phone calls? Like I said earlier, it's art, not science. It's how you do the house. It's not just a formula. So people look at the activity, and then they start doing the activity, and they still don't get the results. Then the next thing they do is they step back and they look at their attitude. And they say, well, I'm doing all the right activity, but my attitude's bad. That's what it is. I need to fix my attitude. And everybody thinks that's what it is. It's all attitude. The truth is, one step beyond that is your philosophy. And that's what you need to work on. What do you believe about you? What do you believe about work? What do you believe about work-life balance? What do you believe about money? What do you believe about people who have money? What do you believe about people that were raised the way you were raised, the success that they could have? What do you believe about the struggles that you have to overcome? Your philosophy, what you believe and how you hold it, that's what's going to change things. So the reason why you want to focus on associations is you get around people that have the right philosophies to handle the problems that you're going to encounter before you have to encounter them. Because this business, what it is a series of ups and downs where you're constantly getting better with the ups so the downs don't last as long. That's how it works. The other thing I want people to know, I think is super crucial, is success takes time. It takes time. It's consistent, persistent effort over time. If you want to break free of the idea that you could go from 0 to hero overnight. Because you don't learn how to win from losing all the time. You learn how to win by winning. What do I mean by that? Today, at the end of the day, before you go to bed, you're going to plan everything you're going to do tomorrow. And you put this big list together. I'm going to do all these things. And then it's just a big list of stuff to do. You do 2 or 3 things on the list. And at the end of the day, you feel like an absolute failure. And you say, well, I just need to set bigger goals. That's my problem. I set bigger goals and just fail at more stuff. And eventually, if I lose more, I'm going to win. That's not true. When we talk about doubling your rate of failure, what we're referring to as it pertains to creating momentum is doubling your rate of failure. That allows you to not be afraid to fail so that you do the activity long enough to have success. But what I mean by you learn to win by winning, if last week you wrote 3 policies, or your best week was writing 5 policies, or you dialed for 2 hours straight to set your appointments, and that's the most you've ever done, why not just set a goal to dial for 3 hours? Why not set a goal to dial for 5? Why does it have to be all or nothing all the time? Why don't you celebrate success when you've done it right 70% of the time? Because what people do, at least what I did, this is how I broke free, is I would set these crazy high goals. I would do good for a couple days. Wednesday, I'd blow it, and I'd say, crap, the week's shot. I'm going to go to the movies. I'm not going to dial tomorrow. I don't feel like working. I'm tired. I'm exhausted, yada, yada. I'll hit it again Monday. And I would go through this cycle of not winning, not setting up a game that I could win. Like if you were driving from Springfield, Landon said Spring Vegas, I like that. You're driving from Spring Vegas to New York City, and you're 2 hours, 3 hours into the drive, and you get one flat tire. Are you going to pull over and fix the tire, or are you going to slash the other 3? That's what I was in the habit of doing. Was I would pull over, oh, I got a flat tire. That person was mean to me. That person said no. That person said they thought it was free. The leads don't work. You know? My mentor, they didn't call me back in 2 hours. I had a product question that was so important. Were you going to write the product? No, I just wanted to know it. I don't have any support. Just slash all the other tires. Don't. I hope y'all can relate. If you can relate to what I just said, drop a 1 in the comments, please. So you learn to win by winning. If every day you could do a few things to get you closer to where you want to go. We set appointments on Mondays and Thursdays for the next 2 days, right? That's how my agency does it. So if on Monday you're going to start dialing at 8 o'clock, be there at 7:30 and have a great attitude and chalk that up as a win. Actually put next to it, like my goal today is to show up at 7:30 with my leads printed out so I can call it. And if you do that, that's a win. My goal today was to dial 50 dials in 1 hour. And if you do that, that's a win. Don't tie yourselves to the results. Fall in love with the activity, not the results. Because if you do the activity long enough with a good attitude and the right philosophy, the results will ultimately come. Because it's inevitable. It's a probability. It's not a possibility. People are always looking for an easier way. Like they pour a foundation, they pull all the weeds around it, they dig a deep hole, they lay some pillars in the ground, they pour a foundation, and they look to the left and right, and they say, oh, that foundation over there looks a lot nicer. Oh, they don't have to dial? Oh, they set all their appointments by text. Oh, their people teleport to their house to buy insurance from them. They're good. It's different. I'm going to go over there and see what that foundation's like. And then they go over there, and they never stay here to put up the walls and the roof. So the number one thing I did to break free is I stopped looking for an easier way. The easier way is to go through it. Here's the thing, though. Over time, the thing that's hard to do becomes hard not to do. Everybody wants to quantify the results all the time. They want to say, this is the recipe. If I do this will happen. That don't work because you can't quantify momentum and getting better. So you have, thank you. Man, I am feeling good. I'm going now. You do it. Thank you. Yes. But you can't quantify momentum and getting better. And so, and that's the part that messes everybody up. right? Because they think, well, if I just had this recipe. No, the truth is, if you did it long enough, this is a really methodical process. It's like this in any business, but it's specifically like this in insurance. This is a really methodical process. Each correct step will lead to the next correct step. You go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you'll be able to see further. You don't need to see step 10 when you're on step 1. I just need to get to step 2. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. But does that make sense what I just said there? All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. I wish I could break that down into some bullet points. I had like 3 bullet points. I turned into 16 of them. But those are some of the things that I think will really help you break free. And I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me out here. Keep fighting the good fight. I love this community. I love what y'all are doing. I love everything Cody's doing. Lots of respect for him as a businessman. And lots of respect for you guys. So thanks for having me.
Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're going to love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there.
I'm so excited for today's CA Power Player podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins. We got a special guest. He is back on the channel talking about how to sell life insurance from home. Here's what I love about this person. Okay, I'm telling you, this will be one of the best.